to another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 110. Holy cow, 110, unbelievable. As always, I'm Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Joining my best friend the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how's it going today?
Ray, it's hot outside, man. It's hot. I don't like the heat. You know, I was in Lancaster over the weekend, and for those of you not familiar with Lancaster, it's where the Amish live, and it's kind of a rural area of Pennsylvania. Great, like, antique shops and, like, places to go like that. And I picked up some knickknacks here. First thing I'm going to show you, Ray, is a vintage Paul Correa action figure from Starting Line. I imagine this is him right after Scott Stevens knocked him out. He's about to get the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs in whatever game that was. But it's a really nice little Paul Correa. That's number one. Number two, you like this one. Little Mark Messier action here. Headliners. Found this little vintage thing. Doesn't look like Mark Messier. He's got too much hair, but it's Mark Messier right there. Little headliners from the NHL PA. The other players in this set included Patrick Waugh, John Van Beersbrook, Martin Brodeur, Jeremy Roenick, Brian Leach, Brendan Shanahan, Jaromir Jagr, and Teemu Selanne. And I believe every single one of those people is now a Hall of Famer, which is cool. And then I found this little gem, right? Like, just this came out in 1998. The Making of the Great One, essays about Wayne Gretzky. I found this. It's funny because it came out the year before he retired, so I guess it didn't do too well. But Beckett made this. Beckett Cards. Right. It's cool because it's got essays from like Mark Messier, Gordie Howe. Mark Messier, actually Gordie Howe. Look, I think he did do one of these. Mark Messier, Brett Hull, Walter Gretzky, and others. Really cool book. I like. I'm a fan of the Great One.
Yes.
Wayne Gretzky, and I just finished his master class, which was actually really, really, really good. Just little things you find along the way. They had some other action figures and stuff, but those were the ones I wanted. You know what else they had, Ray? They had all those little 25-cent egg football helmets, baseball helmets, hockey helmets. They had all of it, and I was like, oh man, I remember getting these when I was a kid, and they were like $1 each. I was like, I'm not spending $1 for things that were quartered 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Sounds like you had a very eventful weekend. It was
good weekend. It was non-eventful, which was what was nice about it.
There you go. So there you go. Very, very peaceful weekend in Amish country. Very cool.
Yes.
So nice. I spent most of my weekend playing Biomutant. I got into that.
That's every day in Los Angeles, isn't it?
Well, yes, but this is the stage after Los Angeles falls into the ocean.
So it's Wednesday. I got you.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. We're recording this on a Monday, but it's Wednesday. Okay.
Yes. We should mention we are recording this a little bit later than normal. It is June 7th here. When we are recording it, we are, again, because Lee was off the grid, and I was kind of also recovering and whatnot from my vacation back east. So it was a good weekend back off for us. But we are back, and we'll back to a regular Saturday schedule starting this week. But yeah, lots of stuff to talk about. We've got a lot of sports news. It's going to be a sports-heavy episode, but also a lot of Star Wars stuff. And also, we should mention, continuing to do housekeeping, we are, of course, Loki kicks off this week, depending again on when you're listening to this.
I'm excited about that.
Yes, episode 1 of Loki, we're both very excited, drops Wednesday, June the 9th, about 36 hours from now. It will drop from when we are recording. Be sure to join us on streamlounge.io, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. On streamlounge.io, of course, we will do our weekly watch-along.
You can watch it any time, though. That's the live one, but you can watch the replay. We get a lot of people watching the replays. We appreciate that, by the way. But this is a show you're definitely going to want to watch with us. So this fills in the gaps. So first off, I guarantee you a majority of this audience has no idea what's going on from a comic book standing in this with the time variance group and where Loki is. There's a lot of time travel. This is one I'm going to say it. It's going to sound cocky, but this is one you're going to want our assistance on. You're going to enjoy watching this show with us because there's going to be a lot of questions like what's happening, and
so
Ray and Lee know.
Happening?
Yeah, this is a comic book heavy timeline. I'll put it that way, and I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with this because, as Ray and I have said it on the show, I really think this show specifically is either going to kind of put the tentacles together of WandaVision and maybe, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but it's definitely going to set up, I think, finally the multiverse and where we're going with that. In fact, I would go as far to say if this show doesn't do that, I'm going to be a little disappointed because, they teased it enough times. I'm tired of it. Another thing people got to keep in mind, Ray. I was thinking about this the other day. Because people are like, oh, it's Loki. I'm like, no, it's 2012 Loki. And you have to remember that's a very different Loki than the Loki we see that dies in Infinity War. All right. Like, you got to remember, this is Loki fresh off the attack from New York. You know, and it's he, you know, he never was punished. He, you know, Thor 2, I don't think had taken place yet. You know, Thor 3 definitely hadn't taken place yet. So this is not the heroine Loki. This is bad Loki. This is evil Loki. In fact, one of the things I noticed, Ray, you want a little Easter egg right now, in Infinity War, when he introduces himself to Thanos, or he's talking, he says, Loki, Odin's son. Right? In this one, he doesn't call himself Odin's son. He calls himself the son of the Blue Giant, whose name is momentarily escaping me. But it's his son. Huh?
Is it Ymir? I think it's Ymir.
No, it's something like that, though. But, like, I noticed that. So it's he's still very resentful of his father. You got to remember, from his point of view, Odin is still alive. Like, it's just a different Loki. And I'm sure they're going to remind us of that, or they won't. But, you know, I just want people to remember that. Like, you're getting a Loki that's different than what you remember. His mother hasn't died yet. I mean, there's a lot of things that haven't happened to this version. And they're going to bounce all around town. I'll be honest with you, Owen Wilson, I'm super excited just to see how he's going to... Yeah, it's just going to be great. I have a feeling this is going to make him resurge in film again. Yeah,
I think so too.
Because he's just built for this role. You've literally backstabbed people like 50 times. Well, I'll never do it again. I mean, it's just
what I think
perfect.
is hysterical is that the Wilson brothers, because Luke was in Stargirl on DC Universe / HBO Max. I think Owen's going to have a lot more success with Loki on Disney Plus than Luke had. Not that he did a bad job. I didn't watch Stargirl. I actually heard he did a very good job. But I don't know. I think a lot more people are going to watch Loki than Stargirl. Just call it a hunch.
You might be right. I mean, it's just funny because, like, you know, you don't have to go far the 7 degrees of separation with a lot of these things. But what's funny is that so many actors have starred in other movies with other people. That, you know, and the same thing with DC. These guys go back and forth all the time. It's hilarious.
Yeah. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with Loki. We are very much looking forward to it. Like Lisa,
it'll be
I
fun.
Agree. We know. Look, we know with Spider-Man and with like he's Multiverse of Madness. We know there's going to be a lot of multiverse. This is the chance for them to establish that. Probably also with Eternals, right? So there's a lot. And again, this is the other big thing. Loki's 6 episodes. It's 6 weeks. It basically leads us right into Black Widow, and then basically every 6 weeks after that, we got a Marvel movie. After that, we've got Shang-Chi in September. We've got Eternals beginning of November. And then we got Spider-Man at the very end of the year. So we got a lot coming up with Marvel. A lot of talking about that coming up in the next few months. Really the rest of the year with us here at Geeks Who Like Sports. But speaking of other things on Disney Plus, are probably the biggest segment of the day for Geekdom. Video games are very quiet. Just want to mention that we are at the beginning of E3 week as we're recording this, which means probably next episode will be a bit more game heavy as we're probly expecting.
It will be.
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot of announcements, and I'll be very disappointed if we don't get some. Yeah, so Disney Plus, speaking of Disney Plus, Star Wars. Lots of Star Wars news kicking off with we've gotten the full or most of the cast reveal for Obi Wan, which of course is a show that we are all looking forward to as it's going to hopefully bridge more of the gap between episodes 3 and 4 in the Star Wars lore. Lee, you were talking about it. Obviously, we know Ewan McGregor is Obi Wan. We know Hayden Christensen's coming back as Anakin. But they also confirmed Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. Right.
It's going to be very interesting. So the mere understanding that Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are in this show denotes that Luke will be there somehow as well, which makes sense. Like this show should surround a young Luke a little bit.
At least touch on it a little.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been great comic books again. Going back to Star Wars, right? I'm the Star Wars comic book guy, right? There have been great comic books about young Luke. In fact, there's a really phenomenal one where young Luke is visited by the ghost of young Anakin, and they become friends for a little bit. As you know, Anakin Skywalker makes his way through the Force. But that comic got me thinking of Hayden Christensen. You know, I'm wondering if we're going to see the ghost of Anakin, or how that's going to play in, or is he Vader? Like, we have no idea. I would love to see the duality of those two characters. And it could totally add another dimension to Obi-Wan's sacrifice in A New Hope, which, again, everyone's okay with now. It's one of those scenes that you can make it even better. Like, what if he has this conversation with Anakin of, like, if I ever meet you again, this is what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? That could be incredible. You know, but look, again, we know he's on Tatooine. I'm interested to see if there's going to be a love story. There's a lot of different places this could go. I just love that Ewan McGregor's back. I mean, we're reaching a point with the prequels, Ray, where I saw it is that like they came out obviously from 1999 till I think 2004. And, there's a younger generation now that grew up with those movies that really reveres those movies. Obviously, we grew up with the original trilogy. We were a little older when the prequel, but now they're kind of got the silver lining of time on them. They're not as bad as we probably thought they were. They're not any better than we thought they were, but it's just one of those things of like, they were fun movies. And, now we have the other 7, 8, 9 to compare it with, which will have its place at some point. But we'll see where this goes, man. There's lots of changes within Star Wars behind the scenes. I know you're going to talk about one of those in a minute. I've been reading recently that George Lucas sounds like he's going to be back involved with the creative direction of Star Wars, which is an interesting choice to say the least. But I think people realize now that maybe he didn't suck as much as they thought. Kevin Smith, and I'll throw it back to you, Ray. Kevin Smith had made this great quote. People asked him 10 years ago about the prequels and when people were being critical. And he said this great thing. He goes, this guy pretty much is responsible for saving my youth. So, I mean, I'm not going to go out there and throw him under the bus for movies that maybe I didn't like as an adult. George Lucas, is a visionary, no matter how you slice it. And if he's involved with Star Wars, it's not a bad thing.
Well, he's a visionary in many, many ways. His technological advancements, part of the reason why we have all the stuff we have in the movie industry nowadays is the technological advancements that he helped push forward with
Skywalker sound
magic and LucasArts Skywalker sound. Yeah, exactly. So, we'll get on some of the behind the scenes and stuff. I agree. I'm more than happy to have George Lucas back as any kind of a creative
just
director
involved.
Kind of thing.
Just have him involved. I mean, like honestly, no one knows the Star Wars universe better than him. I mean, fans might not like to hear that, but it came out of his brain, so he probably knows.
So, no, for sure. We got a lot of... One other thing I want to mention with Obi-Wan is I wonder if we do get a young Anakin, if we also get a young Biggs, if we get other characters that were touched on.
You mean young Luke, you mean, right?
That's what I mean. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I got confused there because young Anakin's in play too, technically.
Right. Yes. If we get a young Luke, because I'm thinking C-16
Luke,
Skyhoppers.
Luke.
Yeah, like I'm thinking that's what I'm.
I want to get a cat and name him Luke, not Luke, just Luke. Luke, I'm coming, Emperor.
You had a Yoda at one point. So.
Yeah, Luke.
So speaking of, quickly before we move on, though, I want to also mention the other Disney Plus show that we're also watching on StreamLounge.io, doing 2 episodes every other Friday. We're doing 2 episodes. Bad Batch.
Clone Force 99.
I am not caught up. I have not seen the most recent episode. I will, of course, have seen both before we broadcast on Friday. Lee, what's going on with the Bad Batch? We've got some stuff up. The last thing I saw, we saw the Faline, possibly just a little bit of a reference there, which is a lot of fun. If you haven't watched our Stream Lounge show, go back and watch the replay of that.
We both called some awesome stuff in that episode. Look, Bad Batch is doing some interesting things. So I'll unveil it in layers. So number one is, if you haven't seen it yet, they're really doing a great job of showing the transition from the Republic to the Empire and how the Empire was able to kind of rise to power so fast and manipulate.
That's been a huge theme throughout the beginning of the show, yes.
They're also alluding heavily to clone troopers into stormtroopers. That's becoming part of it. I have a feeling that Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, is going to be a major catalyst in removing clones from the Empire completely to an entire volunteer stormtrooper campaign that can't shoot for crap. The other thing, too, is that's one thing, all right? The next layer is that they are starting now to unveil the forces behind everything, the Jedi and the Sith. So we have characters coming back. I don't want to spoil it too much, but they are alluding at the end of episodes now that there are higher powers at the last episode, there's revealed that there's someone, a puppet master, if you will, that looks to be on the Republic side. We don't know who it is. We don't know if it's a Jedi. We don't know anything. What I do know is that Filoni is heavily involved in this show and heavily involved in The Mandalorian, and they are making massive connections between those two shows. So I have a feeling that they, and this is why I keep watching it, because, the Clone Wars, you knew where that was going. Yeah. All right. The last season of the Clone Wars set up a lot, right? It set up stuff for The Mandalorian. It set up stuff for Ahsoka. This Bad Batch show is clearly setting some things up for the higher universe of Star Wars, and I'm very, very excited about it. So if you haven't seen it, it's binge-worthy. Some episodes are better than others, I'll say that, but that's why one of those things, if you watch it with us, you're going to start seeing the layers to this thing that you haven't seen. Like you said, the Faline, they're clearly showing the underground of Star Wars, which is a fun place. Shizor is one of my favorite characters. I really, really believe that the appearance of the Falleen species means Shizor is going to show up at some point. For those who don't know, Shizor is the head of like the guild crime. I think it's Red Sun or Crimson Dawn.
Right.
And then it also denotes other characters. If I may, Ray, another character that just popped up in the Star Wars universe that I'm going to bring this up.
In the comics, yep.
Right, is Kira from Solo, just popped up in the comics way down the line. So she's alive, and at the end of Solo, she was played by the woman who played Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones. She was very involved with Darth Maul in bringing Crimson Dawn to the forefront. So I have a feeling we may see her in this show at some point. Although she might be very young, and especially if the Empire is just taking over. She would not be older at this point. But there's just a lot of things. Like they go to Corellia in the last episode, Ray. I mean, there's just too many things going on. There's a very cool scene. I won't spoil it for you, Ray, but there's a very cool scene where the droid army is reactivated for a moment and how it operates, and they're just kind of going in and checking off things like, did you want to know this? Did you want to know this? Did you want to know this? So I like where it's going. I'm actually enjoying this more than I enjoyed Clone Wars in a lot of ways. So check it out. Bad
Batch. Good. That's very good. Yeah, for sure.
Like I said, you knew where Clone Wars was going to end up.
Right.
You always knew.
Yes.
We have no idea where this is going. And then obviously the character Omega for those who don't watch it, is a female clone of Jango Fett, and we don't know her significance yet, but they're hinting towards something. There's a lot of Order 66 stuff. It's just filling in a really great gap period in Star Wars in a fun way. Omega.
Yes. Also, just want to briefly mention it was Prince Xizor was head of the Black Sun, which
Black
is
Sun. I was okay. That was between both of them.
Yes.
Crimson Dawn's a book. Yeah.
Another rival criminal organization.
I have an action figure of him up there. I'm not going to grab it right now, but Shizor was one of my favorite characters in Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, Shadows of the Empire was an amazing game, an amazing book.
Yeah.
It was again another fill-in, one of those things that help fill in the gap between Empire and Return of the Jedi.
And in our youth, this is prequel. Yeah. So it's like, and it was the first book that really gave Darth Vader a voice in his head.
Yeah.
And I remember that, like, you never got to dive into the characters like that book. That's still, I think, the greatest expanded universe book ever written.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too is that people, Vader too, not as conniving as Xizor was. Prince Xizor had a obviously machinations to become basically the second in command to the Empire, right below the Emperor. But Vader was like completely aware of what was going on the whole time, like.
Right. Yeah, Skyhook too. He had his Skyhook. The thing about Vader that a lot of people forget is that in 4, 5, and 6, you're really seeing his rise to power. Yeah. Like from the moment Vader is created till his demise in Return of the Jedi, he moves up the ranks. Like he was not the number 2 of the Empire. When he was created, it took a long time. He was constantly fighting with Grand Moff Tarkin, constantly fighting with Shizor. And the Emperor was obviously constantly testing him to see how powerful he was. Again, throwing Darth Maul at him in the comic books, throwing lots of people at him. So it's the true torture of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader is never revealed in the films. But when you go deep, it's so dark and awesome. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah. Speaking of dark, possibly there's been reports coming out of stuff going on behind the scenes at Lucasfilm and the LucasArts division of Disney. And this, to me, isn't very surprising. This kind of confirms things that I had heard in Hollywood for years. But there are rumors that are being reported that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are fighting with Kathleen Kennedy, that Kathleen Kennedy has tried to stonewall them at several things they wanted to do, especially with The Mandalorian. And now that this could be leaked for a variety of reasons. It could be someone's representation to try and obviously discredit someone. But this is also something that we've talked about for a while with Kennedy's contract supposedly coming up soon. Because I don't know if she's been extended. You can correct me if I'm wrong there. But she's someone who Star Wars fans have a very love-hate relationship with, and it seems that Favreau and Filoni have that relationship as well. As it's interesting that it's clearly these two guys have tremendous love for the franchise, and again, Kathleen Kennedy famously said that there wasn't source material for them to make new movies off of, even though we literally have hundreds and hundreds of books and thousands of comics and video games and all this other stuff. And it's since then, and obviously with the most recent trilogy, her aptitude has been in question. So yeah, Lee, what are your thoughts on the rumors of this infighting at LucasArts? And can we get Kathleen Kennedy out there sooner rather than later? Because I am sick of her.
Yeah, look, anytime I hear rumors about stuff like this, I question it heavily.
Yeah.
I did hear about Favreau wanting complete control over The Mandalorian, and he obviously deserves that. Look, here's the deal. I've always said this with Kathleen Kennedy. Look, she's done some really good things and some really bad things. She's almost like a commissioner in sport. You know, like the move she made to kind of relaunch the universe and remove a lot of the expanded universe, I still don't think that was the wrong move. And I think the wrong move was not planning a whole trilogy, for 7, 8, and 9. But with that said, the first movie came out in 2015. From 2015 to 2021, we've gone through a massive change in how we consume media, right? And I've also said this. She hired Favreau. So, look, I'm not a Kathleen Kennedy hater. I wouldn't say I love her either, all right? But you can't just look at the negative stuff she's done. You got to look at both sides of it. And like I said, everybody wants to throw the keys to the car to Filoni and Favreau, which they've basically done. Like I said, I don't want to hear about infighting. I don't want to hear about it as a Star Wars fan. Make good stuff. Shut up. That's. I don't want to hear about you guys fighting. This isn't Jerry Springer. Like, how much content and news do we really need? Like, I don't. You know what I mean? So it's like they'll figure it out. I mean, keeping in mind, like a disagreement that got reported could have been like, no, I don't like you. Okay, let's go to the news and make sure people know that they hate each other. It's just, so I'll tell you this. If they strip control away from Filoni and Favreau for any reason, that is the dumbest decision ever made. I don't think they're going to do that. So we'll see what happens there. But, like, honestly, I don't care what happens behind the scenes. Just make good stuff. All right, that's it. You know what you're doing. If the fans have spoken here. All right, Mandalorian's the greatest Star Wars property probably ever made. All right, I'll say that. Okay, it's probably the greatest thing they've made.
Yeah, that's it.
Let it ride.
Yeah. I mean, it's typical Hollywood dirt sheet drama, and again, it could be done for a variety of reasons. Like I said, it could be somebody's representation. It could be, again, especially if Kathleen Kennedy is negotiating for new contracts or something. It could be somebody trying to undermine her. It could be somebody trying to,
I don't care about any of that stuff. I have no desire. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, just do your job and let me watch Star Wars.
Well, hopefully they can. So speaking of jobs, speaking of people out of jobs, moving into wrestling, there's a lot been going on in the wrestling world, both WWE and AEW. WWE released, and actually speaking, this could actually also include Disney at some point. You'll see how I connect them in a bit. WWE released Lana, Aleister Black, Braun Strowman, amongst many others. Strowman's had title pushes. Lana has had some time in the limelight, although she's going to probably now join her husband, I imagine, Miro, over at AEW after he was unceremoniously let go last year. Aleister Black had some tremendous storylines, and then suddenly he got dropped. There's been a lot of turmoil with the roster with WWE signing back people that they had said they would never sign again. It's been really weird what's going on over there, and the company seems to be in a lot of turmoil. And it brings me to the point that there's two very clear camps right now fighting for WWE. There's the old school Vince McMahon and his backers, and there's the new school Triple H and Stephanie and their backers. And you're seeing a little bit of, and people are like, oh, well, the buck stops with Vince. And I'm like, I don't know if it completely does anymore. Triple H created NXT, and Stephanie, and they're doing all these shows on A&E with all the biographies and the lost treasures of WWE history. And it makes me think, and this is the rumor going now, and the rumor, and a lot of people are pointing this, is that WWE is caring more about maximizing their profit margins and less about Vince wanting to destroy AEW, which of course has let the door open for AEW to thrive. We'll get to that in a minute. It also brought up the rumors again that WWE is for sale, that Disney, Amazon, Apple, take your pick, NBC, that there are suitors and that there are people looking to buy WWE outright away from the McMahon family, and that as Vince gets up in age, and of course as Triple H and Stephanie get more control, you wonder if they're pushing for this more and more, because that's the reason why you release some of your higher paid talent, despite them being a huge chunk of your card, is that you're maximizing profits, especially in a time when profits are at a low because of COVID. Lee, what are your thoughts on the releases and what seems to be from the outside? Again, you like to say we only see like 10% of what's going on, if that. What seems to be turmoil over in WWE wrestling land.
Yeah, I think everyone's being played by that. Now, I'll tell you why. These are genius billionaire business people. They're not dumb. All right? They're not going to let a little turmoil mess it up. Here's the truth. Competition breeds profits. They want AEW to get bigger. They want that Monday Night Wars to come back. It's going to make wrestling better. 2, COVID hurt them pretty bad. I think the slim down roster makes a lot of sense. They're going to go with the best top 10% talent that they have. I'm not talking money now. I'm talking people they want to focus on, consolidate the story, lower the roster. That's exactly what made AEW successful in the first place. Now they're bloating their roster.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
You know, it's switching.
Andrade straight from WWE.
Right.
That.
So, here's the thing, man. If you're going to put Vince McMahon and Triple H against the leadership of AEW, I think AEW gets their butt kicked. They're outcoached here. So I think they know exactly what they're doing. I think they're slimming down the roster for less storylines. It's going to get people more dedicated. Again, you're going to talk about another WWE story in a little bit here that just kind of, I think, proves what I'm talking about. But they look, these people know what they're doing. I don't think there's a Triple H versus, Mr. McMahon. I don't think any of that's happening. They're family. That's a family. And I think if there's infighting, you would really know about it. Right. I think that it's a business. They know their business better than anybody. Again, competition is a good thing. And there hasn't been competition in wrestling in a while. So I think they know exactly what they're doing, and no, I think when they release these people, it makes news. They got us talking about it, and again, they're going to slim down their card and make it easier to follow, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, because that is something that has been troublesome for WWE for a while, for many years, was that there were so many people and there were so many shows and so many hours of wrestling that it felt bloated. So it's interesting if WWE kind of slims down and takes that approach, and AEW is becoming the bloated show.
Yeah, at the end of the day, when you think back to the heyday of when we grew up, I mean, who was there really? Okay, there's Triple H, there's Stone Cold Steve Austin, there's The Rock, Undertaker, Kane, right?
Mick Foley.
Yeah, right, Mankind. I mean, so my point is, we could give a few more here, all right? But, there's less than 10 superstars that you follow around.
Right.
That
was the A tier. Like, of course, you had mid-carders and you had...
But you had the Gold Dust. You had Rey Mysterio. I mean, you had all these other guys.
Val Venus. You had Godfather.
But we came for those 6 to 10 people. That was it, right? And I think, they've had, 15 people in that running, and it's too much, right? Like, people want to flip around. They want to watch their guy or their girl, and they want to make it work. So I think they're getting back to that. And the thing is, they haven't had a true superstar in a long time, like a really long time. I mean, I guess the last one they really had was John Cena, maybe. That's the last massive star they had. Right. All right? It takes nothing away from Roman Reigns or any of those guys, but look, Sheamus. I mean, no. I mean, they're not comparable. It's not comparable to some of these other guys. So I think they slim it down, someone will come up.
And that's why, again, I want to clarify, by the way, when I'm saying Godfather, Val Venus, those were your mid to lower card guys.
BC card. Yeah, they were funny. They were jokes.
Right.
Exactly. They were your warm-up to the main event.
Right, exactly. They were never in main eventers. And Sheamus had his run as a main eventer, but now he's back in the U.S. title run, right? He's a U.S. champion right now, which is fine. He's been moved down to the lower card, and that happens too. Sometimes guys go up and down the card depending on where they are in their
They
career.
have not had a true superstar, and I mean, pop culture transcending person since John Cena.
Yes,
all right?
that's fair.
And if you slim down the roster, you're probably going to get one.
Yeah, you'll have somebody rise to the challenge.
Right.
So that's interesting. Briefly, before we go into the AEW section, like Millie mentioned, there is one other big WWE story that they announced this week, which is huge.
This proves my point.
Yes. But again, it also shows that they are still looking for profits, and there's still no confirmation or denial that they are for sale or that they are in talks with anybody. But I do believe that it's less likely they are going to sell over time. I think they're going to try and keep it in the family, like we mentioned. But
it probably won't be a sale. It'll be a mutual benefit. Like if Disney buys them, it's so they can put them on Disney Plus.
right.
Like I don't think they're going to outright buy it. The rights,
The reason why I think somebody would have to outright buy them is that you just struck that $1 billion deal with NBC and Peacock.
Right.
So like it would have to be somebody like.
That's
which again
also
only makes me believe less and less that the company is going to be. The more you look at it, that it will be sold, unless I don't know something happens. Who knows, right? But one thing that we do know for sure is that SummerSlam, the biggest event of the summer, of course, one of the core 4 pay-per-views that has been going on for over 30 years, will be taking place at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, which, of course, where the Raiders play. It is the first time SummerSlam is being held at an NFL stadium. It will be the largest SummerSlam ever, as they're looking to have a full crowd there, so you're talking possibly 50, 60, 70,000 people, which, of course, A, helps them at the gate, but B, it's also going to be, it's a big way for WWE after a year and a half of having to do things in the Thunderdome, of trying to bounce back financially. Also, by August, we will, hopefully, everything should be opened back up, and everything should be all right. That is the plan, and by going on that, and going to where the Raiders play, that is a big move for WWE to say, hey, we're back.
Not only we're back, but we're better than you. I don't think AEW could fill that. I mean, they might be able to, but, WWE is showing, like, look, this isn't a competition right now, right? Like, when people want to see us, they'll see us. So It's a brilliant move. It proves my point. Like, if there's infighting, that's not happening. So it's again, they're going to come right back to the top. And again, like, when people can go to events again, that's going to be the real showing of what's happening, and that's the point, right? They're filling a football stadium.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's going to be very interesting to see where they go moving forward. But look, during COVID, it's like I said about the NHL, about all sports, like you got to kind of take all this with a grain of salt and realize, this is abnormal times, right? And then now if they don't fill Allegiant Stadium, which is likely that they will, then we have to have another conversation.
Yeah, but we will see. We will see. But that was a big announcement for them. For that. Moving over now to AEW, who has emerged as legitimate rivals to WWE. They announced they are doing a second show, starting in the next few months, probably by the end of the summer. They'll start debuting on I believe TNT, and then it's going to all move. They announced that their partnership with TNT, TBS, and their parent company They will all move over to TBS in 2022. Of course, TBS is the sister station to TNT. That's all HBO, Time Warner, AT&T, that whole company, basically. And they are basically announced, they announced a new Friday show called AEW Rampage. That's also part of the reason why they might be kind of expanding at such a quick pace with their roster, is that, they have their successful YouTube show with, like, their up-and-comers called AEW Dark. You have, obviously, AEW Dynamite, which has been dominating on Wednesday nights. It's going to be interesting to see what they do now with moving to a show to Fridays called AEW Rampage. And they also announced something. This is an old-school wrestling throwback, that starting in 2022, that while the main shows will be on TBS, they will have quarterly supercards. For those who remember, this is like Saturday Night Main Event back in the day for WWE. So you're going to have, like, massive 2 to 3 hour almost pay-per-view caliber events on TNT every 3 months. So that's a big deal that they're kind of doing some old school wrestling stuff with some new school wrestling stuff. But the fact that they're expanding their programming schedule so aggressively, and again, signing guys left and right. Again, Andrade just signed with AEW. You have to imagine some of this new talent. Mark Henry just signed with AEW. They are literally signing every WWE castaway there is. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and just see how many of these guys sink or swim, because already you're starting to see guys like Christian and a few others who have gone over to AEW after leaving WWE. They're not really resonating like the audience would, I think, like AEW thought they would, like Chris Jericho did, or certain guys. But again, Chris Jericho's best in the world. So, Lee, what are your thoughts on the AEW aggressive expansion?
Yeah, look, expansion's good, but if you scope too fast, you can bury yourself, and that's where I question the business leadership of that organization. I think it's good they're expanding. I think it's time. Like, I think they're big enough to do it. Yeah. But if they go too fast, it's going to be bad. I don't like that they're gobbling up everybody that leaves. I mean, you're getting scraps. I mean, that's the way it looks.
Yeah.
So again, they're going to have to emerge from that underdog moniker at some point, and become better, right? That's the key. It's like, okay, this is a great alternative, but you don't want to be known as a great alternative. You want to be known as the best. And
Right.
you know, again, WWE going to Allegiant Stadium is like stamping that out. Like, you're not the best. You're an alternative. So they have to scope correctly and make sure that they beat that moniker of being the second option. We'll see what happens. They're not there yet.
Yeah, no, it is true. They're not there. It's going to be interesting to see, though. Yeah, what they can do to continue to compete. But yeah, like you said, I Dynamite has done well enough to warrant a second show, or the Supercards. The fact they're doing both at the same time is
We'll
a little
see.
interesting. The fact that they're going to move channels, it seems to be a lot going on here. But obviously, AT&T, Time Warner, all that, again, that giant conglomeration parent company seems to have faith in them, and I think it's a good sign. Again, it's good for wrestling overall to see that happening. So that's a short geek section this week. Again, mostly just prepping for Loki and Star Wars and wrestling. But again, we expect some big stuff from the video game industry, and of course, we'll have a full first episode Loki recap on the next episode of Geeks Who Like Sports. But that brings us to the sports section.
Yay.
We've got a lot of sports stuff to talk about. Starting off, of course, with the playoffs. Playoffs. We got NBA and NHL playoffs going on. We've got the Suns knocked off the Lakers. We'll start with the NBA. The Suns knocked off the Lakers in 6 games. They absolutely made the Lakers look terrible. It looked like the Lakers gave up in the fourth quarter. LeBron James, I get he's getting older. He had to take a break. I actually watched the second half of that game. He had to take a break in the fourth quarter. The dude had played almost every minute of the game, and he started to wear down. He took a break. When he left the court, that team, like, it felt like they gave up. He only took a 2-minute break.
They gave up, but they're just not that good without him on the court.
Well, I mean, that's really the thing is that he took a 2-minute break, and the Clippers the Suns went on a 7-0 run, and that was basically the nail in the coffin. Also, it should be said that Devin Booker came out like a house on fire. I think he scored like 48 or something in that game, including like 20 in the first quarter. They were up almost 30 at the half. The Lakers made a game of it in the second half, but that was too big a hole for them to dig themselves out of, even with LeBron trying to do his best to carry that team. But it just shows that without AD, who also, by the way, needs to be said, I don't know who cleared him to play, but it was clear that Anthony Davis was in no condition to play in that Game 6. Like, the dude was limping from the second he took the court. This isn't a Willis Reed situation, right? Like, it was his groin was he was in no condition to run up and down that court.
I give him props for trying, but he should not have been playing.
No. Like, there are guys who are like, oh, I'm 80%, 90%. He looked like he was 30%. But again, it just shows the kind of desperation, I guess, as defending champs, and he couldn't go. And without their big two there, without LeBron and AD, without the Batman, the Robin to his Batman, it wasn't enough. And the Suns were, again, look, there's a reason why the Suns were the number 2 seed. They dominated most of the regular season. That is a good team. Chris Paul, to me, I've said it before in the show, should be an MVP candidate. It's a sin he's not getting more talk in that category. Is clearly the leader that team. You have pure talent in Devin Booker. You have veteran experience with leadership with Chris Paul. They have a lot of other great pieces there.
Well,
and they to me, I think they're gonna run right through. I think they're going to run right through Denver into the Western Conference Final.
The Suns were the favorite to win this on paper.
Yes.
And that people, LeBron's on that team. Like, that doesn't mean anything. They were not. Lakers were not exactly what they were last year. This year, like, they weren't the best team in the West. And the other thing too is that they had such a short turnaround from last season. Like, I can't even fault the Lakers for being tired and a little banged up. I know it's look, the same 4 teams have rotated around in the final. Like, I'm sorry, so Miami, Los Angeles, the Spurs, and I think who was the other team?
The Heat.
The Heat. I said Miami. Maybe it was the Cavs. Right? My point was, since 1998 or something like that, one of those 4 teams has appeared in the playoffs every season. The Warriors. It absolutely was the Warriors. One of those 4 teams have appeared in the final every year. So this is good for basketball, in my opinion. The one thing I'll remember about this series, Lakers-Suns, is in Game 1, I don't want to put this all on LeBron. I just using him as an example here. They were kind of playing like silly, And I remember like, oh, they're having fun. They're having fun out there. And I was like, this is there's a difference between fun, like, hey, we're winning, right, and like, oh, I'm going to be silly just to loosen everybody up. You can't do that in the playoffs. And that's kind of what it looked like. They were like, oh, I'm going to dribble 50 times between my legs, make fun. And then he missed the shot. The Suns wanted to go for a kill, and they went for the kill. Yes. They were not going to be messed with. You know what's fun, Ray? Winning.
Yeah.
All right, winning is really fun. I'll be honest with you. I think LeBron had a little bit of the decision moment after, the day after they lost, when they asked him what are you going to do this summer, and he goes, I'm going to play for the Toon Squad. I was like, oh God, I bet you that played out well when you wrote to WB that you were going to do that after you won the NBA championship, buddy, but it does not play well when you go out in the second round.
Yeah, first round. Yeah.
First round, excuse me. Like, I'm going to go play for the Toon Squad. I was like, oh God, how much did you get paid to say that? But that was a weak moment in my opinion. Like it doesn't play well. I'll be honest with you, and he might get away with that in other sports. He would not get away with that.
No.
But no, look, they got beat by a better team. It doesn't take anything away from the Lakers. Remember the Lakers didn't even make the playoffs 2 years ago. So they'll come back and they'll be strong. Well, I'll tell you another thing, Ray. Something that needs more talk. The Lakers traded away 4 starters last year, and all 4 of those guys are still in the playoffs.
Yeah.
2 of them are on the Sixers.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. We're going to get to the Sixers in a second, but...
I'm saying 4 of their guys, Davis, Davis, sorry. They traded 4 of their guys away because they wanted to, rebuild and make sure, and now they're out and those guys are still in. So it just goes, you can make too many moves sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that happens. That does happen, Sometimes as you try and retool, sometimes you break, you try and fix something that isn't broken.
They could have just looked at the Bulls of the 90s, man. Look what happened to them when they started moving guys. End of an era.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Different time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's also true. Very different time. We got some other series going on. The Nets are up 1-0 on the Bucks. The Nets, though without James Harden, he might have pulled his hamstring. And now there's some legit concern about how far Brooklyn can go without him because they are very much built as a three-headed monster.
Everybody predicted this. If they can stay healthy, it's a big if.
But I mean, you still have Irving, you still have Durant, but it is a team that is consistently and has been all year. These guys have only played like 9 games together, the 3 of them, because they're all constantly hurt, and now Harden came up lame. It'll be interesting to see how that series goes. The Clippers came back twice against Dallas. They were down 2-0 and 3-2 in that series. And talk about playoff experience and not being able to go for the kill. The Clippers, led by Kawhi Leonard, who had a record-setting Game 7, came back to beat Dallas. They will now take on the Jazz, which should be a fantastic series in the West. 2 very similar teams, but obviously you had the bigger names on the Clippers. But the Jazz are, again, the number 1 seed for a reason. This is a team that knows how to play. They have some great defensive players there as well, including the heart of the pandemic, Rudy Gobert. That should be a very fun series as well. And that leads us to the series that I was waiting to get to for Lee, 76ers versus Hawks. The Hawks that ran right over my Knicks won a nail-biter in Game 1 in Philadelphia, 128-124.
Shouldn't have been a nail-biter.
Triple H came out rang the Liberty Bell for you guys. Lee, what are your thoughts on the Sixers in this series?
I think the Sixers are going to win this in 5, and I'll tell you why. I mean, look, Atlanta threw everything they had at them, had a massive lead at the half. I think it was a 30-point lead at the half.
Yeah.
And they lose by 4.
Yeah.
I'm confident in my basketball team that they come out, they get rolled over by Atlanta, who is clearly fully super fired up for the series. Mm-hmm. And you lose by 4 after being down 30. I'm not unconfident right now. And I'll tell you that right now. This is common in basketball. The underdog comes in. They're ready to go. I give them credit. I mean, they won the game. They look great. That was one of the best first halves of basketball by a team I've ever seen. Ever. Yeah. You lose by 4 after being up by that much? That's all you did. This is like Japan bombing Pearl Harbor. You just woke them up. What are you doing? So I think Sixers in 5.
That's fair. It's going to be interesting. I think the Sixers win this series as well. I don't know if it's going to be 5. I don't think...
I think they're pissed off now.
I was going to say they're ticked for sure, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta took a game down in Atlanta. So I'm going to say Sixers in 6.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I think it's not a mistake. I think Atlanta showed their game in that first half. I think the Sixers compensated, and dude, that's
Well, here's the thing,
to
if you
come
shut
back
down
like
Trae,
that.
if you shut down Trae Young, you shut down that offense. And I think that
Exactly.
Philadelphia adjusted at the half.
Yeah,
and
that's
now they
a
have their
good
game plan
sign.
going forward.
That's a really good sign for Philadelphia, and I'll tell you that, dude. Again, losing by, I mean, they could have won that game, right? They could have won that game with a couple minor tweaks and things. I'll tell you what, if they did win that game, we would have swept.
Yeah, Atlanta would be.
That would have broken their heart
at that point. After a comeback like that, that breaks a team.
Yeah, but I mean, again, Atlanta's like, yeah, we won that game. I'm like, if I'm again on the exterior, yes, I get that. In the locker room, I'd be like, guys, you blew a 30-point lead.
You blew it.
Yeah, I mean,
they didn't.
Dude,
they almost did.
I mean, let's just be honest, right? Like 20 points is not insurmountable. I've seen that happen and gets close. 30 points, you better win the game convincingly. All right, like that's dangerous to me. Like, so again, I'll eat crow if the Sixers don't come back, but I can't see them not waking up, barring injury. Obviously, that always plays into it.
I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think that this is the Sixers' year, especially at least to come out of the East.
I mean, they should be in the final. The finals.
That's what I'm saying. They should at least be in the finals. Yeah. Who knows what happens when they get there? Because you got a lot of good teams in the West.
Right. You got to earn your way. But look, here's the thing. For the first time in a very long time, nobody knows who's going to win the NBA this year. All right. I can tell you. You can go back 15 years. You know who's going to probably win. Or
at
be
least
there.
Again be in the finals. You know what the matchup's going to be.
Right. This is what basketball needed, and we've been saying it.
Yeah,
this
some
is what it
parity.
needed.
Finally, some parity.
Right.
So, speaking of parity, we're getting a little bit in the NHL. We're having a couple surprises, also a couple of teams that we're not surprised by. The Lightning are up 3-1 in their series against Carolina. Tampa Bay, defending champions, came out on all cylinders. Carolina's given them a good series, but Tampa Bay, with that championship experience, just finding ways to win, getting that extra goal late. They won 6-4 in Game 4. They're now up 3-1 in the series. Lee, I'm thinking Tampa Bay is going to probably finish this off. I'm going to say I think they're going to finish this in Game 5, honestly.
Yeah, look, Tampa Bay's healthy. They have Stamkos. They have Kucherov. I mean, they've got a better team, arguably, than they did last year at this point.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, look, they're the favorite to win. Carolina's had a great season. And look, here's the thing about the NHL playoffs. Look, you just never know. We just saw a team up 3-1 in the first round lose.
That's true.
So you just never know. The thing is, in this series specifically, you have a team that clearly knows how to go for the kill.
Yes.
Yes, if you're watching that series, you could probably be confident that Tampa's going to win that series, barring a massive meltdown at this point. But like I said, Ray, one thing I want to shout out, because we haven't had an episode, is, look, one of the things we talked about before the playoffs is that almost most of the games would be 1-goal nail biters, empty net here or there. And they have been. This has been an amazing playoff year.
Yes.
Almost every game is a 1-goal game. All right. Yep. Again, you have the odd blowouts here or there.
Right.
They do happen. All right.
Yeah.
People, like I said, like when Colorado played Vegas in Game 1, they blew Vegas up. People, I see they're gonna win the Stanley Cup. I was like, guys, Vegas is exhausted.
Yeah.
Exhausted. Colorado's rested. Vegas is gonna come back in this year. No way, Colorado. Yeah. It's 2-2 now.
Yeah, and speaking of blowouts, and Vegas blew out Colorado in Game 4 to tie the series up.
Ray, I've been watching the NHL playoffs a long time. It is by far the most parity in sport in that playoffs. You never know who's going to win, and you are never safe until you've won a series. It's like it's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times. This is where new hockey fans, who I adore, but they annoy me because I can't tell you how many times I've seen a team go up 2-0.
Yeah.
I've seen this at least 15 times. A team goes up 2-0, but it's over. They're up 2-0, and then the away team goes and wins 2 at home.
Right.
Like, it's just, hockey does not work like the other sports.
Yeah.
And it's like you just don't know. And that's why Game 7s are so great. That's why the playoffs are so late. That's why a team can be up 3-0, like Montreal over Winnipeg right now. And you're going to watch because you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's going to happen. So, I love the NHL playoffs. I think this has been actually one of the better playoff years in history.
Yep.
Fans are still trying to find ways to be upset about it. like you know what the big complaint is right now, right? Oh, this Canadian division is trash. It's trash. They're gonna get guys. I just talked about this today on my other channel. There's people out there, Ray, that are saying that the NHL purposely made the Canadian division so that there would be a Canadian team in the third round. I'm like, guys, that's not how this works. COVID, they had to do it to me. Well, that doesn't mean they don't like it. Sure.
They just figured out a travel arrangement with Canada for the third
insane.
round.
Look, we said this before the season. Yes, there are probably 5 teams that deserve to be in the playoffs this year that did not make the playoffs. All right, bubble teams. Okay, I could say the Rangers, the Flyers should have been in that fight. Okay. Right. There's other teams, like who knows how good Vancouver may have been if they didn't catch the worst COVID ever. That's the reality of the season, though. Okay, all right. Do I think Toronto benefited from being in their division? Sure, but it doesn't mean they were going to suck in the league. I mean, so that's my point. Let's stop focusing on that stupid stuff. The Canadiens, who barely made it in the playoffs, Carey Price, who's an amazing human being. Let's just be honest about that. No one's ever had a bad thing to say about Carey Price. They're finding a way to surge. Yeah. Right? And then I hear this. Oh, they're going to get killed when they meet a team from their division. Have you watched hockey before? That is not how it works at all. If a team gets hot, I don't care what seed they are. They can win the whole thing. The Blues just did this 2 years ago. It's like we forgot.
Yeah.
The Blues the LA Kings were an 8 seed. They won the whole thing. Yeah. What are you... Enjoy the hockey and shut up.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, especially it's going to be fascinating to see in the next round. It's teams that haven't seen each other all year.
Yes, and I'm excited about that.
You have no idea what these rounds.
And you should expect lopsided scores in that round, but back and forth.
Couple games,
yeah, but back and forth. So look, here's the deal. All right, every team that's in the playoffs right now, except maybe Winnipeg, every one of those teams is cup capable. That's what I'll say. Right, I can't tell you who's going to win the cup this year. I mean, if you gun to my head, Colorado Avalanche are the best team in the playoffs. Right. All right, but that doesn't mean they're going to win. All right, and again, they were playing Vegas, man. People are Colorado's so good. I'm like, Vegas is the second best team in the play. You think they're just going to go quietly into the night? Their damn slogan's nighttime. Yeah. They're going to come back, and they did. And they did convincingly. And I got Avs fans are like, oh, they better get their heads out of their butts. Like, guys, that series is going 7. Yeah, I mean that's whoever comes out of that series is probably going to win the Stanley Cup. I will say that now. Okay, yeah. But again, Vegas and Colorado. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say the Canadiens are going to win that series, even though I shouldn't say that. Right? Just look who's left: Vegas, Colorado, the Canadiens. All right, probably Tampa Bay.
Probably.
All right, and then the other series is
Boston Islanders, which about another great series that's been nail biting neck back and forth.
By the way, did I not call the Islanders? Here's the thing about the Islanders, and by the way, Islanders fans annoy me with this too because they're like their own worst enemy, right? But I remember Boston went up. Oh, we're gonna kill the Islanders. I'm like, dude, the Islanders do not go away. No. They are the most annoying team, and what I mean by that is the style of play. If you stop taking them seriously, they will bite you in the butt. It's exactly what's happening, right? They are not going to go away. Boston should win that series. But but people forget the Islanders went to the conference final last year. Yeah. How are people forgetting that? It boggles my mind.
Well, last year was a weird year, and I don't think
I'm saying they're good enough to win the cup. In fact, I picked them out of the East or whatever. I picked them to be one of the final 4. Yeah. All right? And again, obviously the next game's huge. All right, but they're going toe-to-toe with Boston, arguably the best team in the division. Right. All right, so anyway, long story short, you never know what's going to happen in the NHL playoffs. Every game has been fun to watch. No, the NHL did not create a Canadian division for financial gain. In fact, that division probably lost the most money in the league. Right. All right.
Yeah, because them too, they didn't allow fans back until the last couple games of the first round.
I saw another guy. This will make you laugh. A guy said, "Well, Gary Bettman is the reason a Canadian team hasn't won the cup. It's inconspicuous that when he became the commissioner, a Canadian team hasn't won since then." And I was like, or it's just basic frickin' math. Yeah. That for a long time there were 6 of them. Now there's 7, and there's a lot more American teams, and it's very, 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 very hard to win the Stanley Cup.
And now with Seattle next year, it's literally less than a quarter of the league plays in Canada.
Not to mention, Canadian teams have made the Cup final since 1993. Calgary has made it. Edmonton has made it. Vancouver. Ottawa has made it.
Vancouver's made it a couple
Vancouver
times.
has made it. Yeah. Shut up. Yeah. That's the stuff that boggles my mind. What conspiracy theories? Just sit down and enjoy the game. Yeah. My God, you have a league. If you want conspiracy theories, you have a league that's got cheaters in it that we know about.
Yeah, it's Baseball.
You know what I mean? The hockey's not. It's impossible to cheat in hockey. I'll say that right now.
Baseball's got, we're not going to talk about it this episode. Baseball's got another scandal that is probably dealing with this foreign substance garbage. If you
Listen,
want to talk,
the only two sports you could cheat, the athletes could really cheat in, I mean, really, is baseball and football. I should say those are the only two sports where like commissioners could really manipulate it if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Right? Football's the easiest. Baseball's the next easiest. Basketball and hockey, you'd have to have a ref, which happened in basketball.
Which did, I was gonna say, happen in basketball.
And I think the biggest scandal I ever saw in hockey was they had like one guy on steroids in the '90s. Or Marley McSorley's stick was curved too much. Like that's the big scandal in hockey. Like, give me a break.
Oh gosh.
Or that 5-minute penalty Vegas took against Colorado that one year. That was pretty funny.
That was fun.
But
yeah.
The Sharks. It was the Sharks. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
the Sharks. Right?
Yeah,
no California teams in the cup in the playoffs this year. It's very interesting.
It's conspiracy. It's conspiracy.
The Kraken are like, hi, West Coast fans. What are the Kraken? We got a cool name, cool logo, cool jerseys, cool arena.
Cool city.
You're all in last place. We won't be. We're going to take your players. You can come be a fan of us. Kraken. Release the Kraken. I'm looking forward to that.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait to go back up to Seattle.
I can't wait. We're going to go to Seattle and go to a game. Guaranteed.
Yes.
That's going to happen next year.
Yes. No, for sure. For sure. Going back, though, really quickly, back to the basketball playoffs. This is a very serious thing. Speaking of some ridiculousness going on, we need to touch upon this story because this is absolutely ridiculous. This has been going around in sports. This started some baseball folks. Obviously, you're always going to have an idiot streaking or something like that. That happens. But it started with when they first let fans back in the Yankee Stadium, and all the fans were throwing garbage under the field.
Horrible.
And now in basketball, you had somebody. I can't even. There's been so many that we had 3 fans. One person went on the court and tried to actually attack one of the players. You had another person throw a water bottle, another person throw popcorn on the players. One of them was in Brooklyn against Kyrie Irving, which prompted Kevin Durant to come out and have a very strong statement, which was completely warranted, basically saying, what would your mamas think about you? We're not circus clowns, we're people. And honestly,
I want to dive into that quote a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because he said it perfectly. He said, as you said, Ray, this is not a circus.
Yeah.
We are not performers for you.
Yeah.
We know you. He said, we know you've been stuck at home for a year. I feel for you.
Right.
But we are not circus animals. You do not have the right to throw things at us or shout at us like that. Not shouting, but throw things on us.
Yeah.
Then he said, grow the F up.
Yeah.
I totally agree with him. Like, your ticket does not entitle you to be an a-hole to the athletes in that way. You're not allowed to physically assault someone. I don't care what fan you are.
Right.
All right. The fans have been a little ridiculous about this, right?
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't give you the right to do those things. And we saw popcorn, a water bottle flown at a guy running on the court, which is weird because I don't expect the basketball audience to be like that. What was funny, Ray, is the first thing happened in Philadelphia. It was popcorn. Everyone went, oh, of course, Philadelphia. Of course. And then it started happening in Washington. It happened everywhere. Yeah. And it's like, fans, what are you doing? What are you doing? Ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's just everybody. It's just been everybody in general. There was actually a funny one. I want to bring this up because I thought it was funny. Somebody on Twitter, because there's been a lot of harassment also going on in the games industry. Again, what else is new? Several female personalities have been harassed by people online. Again, you're
not cool, bro.
Yeah, and my good friend Victor Lucas, of course, said, can we just flush these trolls down the drain? And I said, can we also, and I'm like, hey, man, if we're going to do it in games, let's expand it to sports. Let's expand it to, there's a lot of places we can expand this to. And an Eagles fan, I laughed because it was an Eagles fan. He had a Eagles logo, Eagles in his name, Eagles on his banner. And he's like, well, I think the video game fans are a lot worse than anyone else. And I was just like, this is coming from, I'm like, look, I'm joking with you, just be straight up. I'm like, but this is coming from an Eagles fan. Really? You are gonna attack the gaming audience? Yeah. I just found that pretty funny. But again, it just also shows
Eagles
there seems to be an some people are oblivious to what's going on in the world, and everybody wants to point fingers. Look at yourselves. You got to police yourselves a little bit, but also stop acting like a-holes. Bottom line. All around. Games, sports. If you're a fan, don't be a jackass.
Yeah, I'll say it again. I'll say what Durant said. Just because you've been locked up for a year does not give you the right to do that.
Yeah.
doesn't give you the right to express yourself in that way.
Yeah.
Just be thankful you're at a game.
Yeah.
All right. When I get to go see the Flyers this year, I was just happy to be there. Didn't care if they won or lost. I was just happy to be there.
Yeah.
That's not true fandom. That's not true fandom. I'm like, okay, you got me. Because you broke your TV after the game. You're a bigger fan than me. Way to go.
Yeah. Learn how to be an adult. Learn how to conduct yourself in public, online, or in person.
Yeah.
And stop being a jerk.
Take a look inside.
Speaking of some folks who are being jerks, the French Open.
That's the French Open.
Yeah, the French Open. Yeah, the Roland Garros, of course, where the French Open is one of the big four majors in tennis. Naomi Osaka, who of course is one of the biggest up and coming female tennis players in the world, was forced to withdraw when she tried to work with the French Open people. She tried to work with Roland Garros and, of course, with the Tennis Association. And she basically came out and said she couldn't meet her media obligations, wanted to try to work something out. And it came out that, of course, it causes her great anxiety. She has some mental health issues. And tennis was basically kind of just like, okay, bye-bye. And that was probably not the best response. Of course, everyone from Serena Williams on down and of course the tennis world came out in support of her, because basically does seem like Naomi tried her best to look, is there some other way we can do this? Can we work something else out? Because she's been trying, but it's clearly been harrowing for her. And instead of being receptive to her plight, she was forced to withdraw from one of the biggest tennis tournaments in the world. And so this is another story about again, athletes are people too. They do have media obligations. It's part of their contracts. It's part of all that. But there should also be some flexibility within these rules when it comes to one's health, especially mental health, especially given the past year and a half we've all had. Lee, what are your thoughts on this story?
Ray, with most situations, I'll say something like, "Oh, there's always gray area, and there's this and there's that." I am 100% behind Naomi on this one. 100%. I am not in all going the other way with this one. And I'll tell you why. There's a few reasons. One is that mental fitness, mental health is incredibly important. I believe that. I work in that realm. You know that. Mm-hmm. I will have more information on this soon, but I'm about to be involved with something extremely involved in this with athletes. Again, I'll have more information about that soon on this show. She is an introvert. She said that on her own.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people can sit at home and just say it's part of the game as the media. Well, you probably never sat in front of 100 people, 10,000 people, 40,000 people, 70,000 people telling you that everything you do is right or wrong, having never once in their life done what you're doing.
Yeah.
It can be extremely stressful for some people. Some people thrive in it. Some people don't. I also hear the people say, well, back in my day, nobody had a problem with that. Two things. Let's just use Mickey Mantle, one of the greatest of all time. All right? Mickey Mantle thrived in front of the cameras, had an incredibly hard life outside of the cameras, went through an incredible amount of pain. There was no social media. A lot of times the media would cover up for him. Yeah. Same thing with presidents. Okay? That doesn't happen today. We are in a gotcha culture. We love to see people fall from grace. We love to see manipulation. We love to see all the juicy, stupid details about people's private lives that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's not an easy time to be an athlete. Not to mention you can't really speak your mind, but you should speak your mind, right? But don't speak your mind. But you should because you can, but don't. Yeah. That's kind of the common thread with athletes. I don't believe mental health and mental fitness is a weakness. I've been an athlete. I've been a coach. I have been everywhere between that. I see what athletes go through. I can tell most of you, and I'm not trying to say this in a condescending way, you have no idea what it takes, the mental fortitude it takes to compete at a high level every single day. The pain you go through, both privately, physically, you have no idea what it takes. And to have an athlete openly talk about that and have to withdraw from her sport, I'm hoping that's going to be a statement. What I feel bad for about Naomi is now the two biggest moments in her life are not winning a major tennis tournament, but it's Serena Williams being upset, which I still think is one of the biggest mistakes she's ever made in her career, was taking away that win from Osaka.
Yeah, and I think she's come out and like apologized.
She totally has. Yeah. Look, I'm just saying she made a mistake. She's totally apologized for it, but she took that away from her.
Right.
And if you remember, that was the first time Osaka was in the news, and she was devastated. She was crying on the court after she won a championship, which should have been the happiest moment of her life. And she has not had a chance at all to just thrive, and that she's one of the best tennis players in the world.
Yep.
Not to mention, this does not happen in the male side of the sport. Tennis is a sport that has a major gender problem. Nobody talks about it that much. It has a major problem.
I mean, it always has. I mean, that's going back to the battle of the sexes. I mean,
totally.
Which obviously more of an
it
exhibition.
Still does.
But,
they treat the women differently than men. And because she came out, it's a weakness. No, I think it's a lot of strength, a lot of celebrities. Will Smith has come out for her. And I think it's time that, fans and people realize, look, if they're not mentally tough enough, I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you how many careers have been ruined because someone's not mentally tough enough. Mm-hmm. But what I think about is how many careers could have been made if someone was helped the right way. All right? Like, you got a kid in baseball right now who's like 0 for 26, and he's batting below like 100. He's like a .96. Oh, he sucks. I mean, look, I'll end this segment with this quote. I forgot what goalie said. It was a famous quote by a goalie. I want to say it was Plant. But I don't think it was. Anyway, the goalie said, how would you feel if every time you made a mistake, a big red light shined and 20,000 people screamed at you that you suck?
Yeah.
Everyone's got an opinion. And look, that's also part of being the pro. That's the other side of it. If you're going to be a pro athlete, you got to deal with this stuff. That's part of the job. Yeah. Okay, but I don't have a problem with her speaking out. If she does have media responsibilities, she does have to own up to those. But there's really no reason that the media shouldn't work with somebody like that. To make it easier for them. Like, nobody wants to be interrogated after a loss.
Yeah.
And I think we take for granted how athletes do this, but I'm 100% with her. And I think that mental fitness, mental health is something that we should explore more as a society, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's fair. I mean, you mentioned Mickey Mantle, of course, his problems, he dealt with it by drinking and let him down into the bottle, let him down to that. Roger Maris, most infamously, he lost his hair.
Exact situation. It's the exact same situation.
Exact same thing. Right.
People hated him for beating Mickey Mantle. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
Yeah, it was. And talking about fans acting out of turn. I mean, it was infamous. People threw chairs. Like, this was before chairs were bolted to stadiums. Like, the bleachers, they would throw things. They would throw chairs. They would throw bottles. They would throw everything at Maris in right field. Like, to the point where he feared for his life. Yankee fans.
One black eye on that organization. Not that they have many, but
we like to throw. We don't talk about it as much. We might make fun of the folks in Philly a lot, but Yankee fans and Giants fans, we throw stuff on the field.
It's the whole Northeast. The truth is, the entire Northeast corridor from I'll say from Philly. I'm not gonna throw Washington into this, but from
Philly to
Boston. They're tough, all right? We're a tough, intimidating fan base, and it's like the Spider-Man meme. All of us are pointing at each other like, you're the worst fan base.
Yes, exactly.
It's the same.
If we love you, you are set for life in our city. Yeah. If we hate you, God help you.
What people in the Northeast don't realize is the rest of the country is looking at us, and they're just like,
yeah.
What are you guys doing?
We'll kill all of you. We're fine with it.
Again, those fans on the court, right? The fans thing. It was in Washington, Philadelphia, and Boston.
Yeah,
the three cities we just mentioned. It's the same three cities.
Yeah.
This didn't happen in Los Angeles.
Right. Exactly. So that says a lot. So,
what a coincidence.
Yeah. So yeah,
it mental health in DC. But the DC guy, what was that? Didn't he just walk on the court? The DC guy just walked on the court.
He walked on the court, and he was like, supposedly getting inside and getting somebody's face or whatever.
Yeah, that's the DC. They walk on the court. In Philly and Boston, we throw crap at the athletes because we're tougher than you.
Oh, gosh. One other story I want to bring up. This is a surprise that, not too much of a surprise, but dropping this on Lee, fitting it in because we mentioned withdrawing from tournaments. Need to mention golf. We don't talk a lot of golf on here, but I want to mention what happened to Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm. Again, I don't even know how to say his name because I don't. That's how little golf I watch. Aside from a few weeks ago, was forced to withdraw. He had a 6-stroke lead going into the final round of the Memorial Tournament. had tested negative every day for COVID until that day and was forced to withdraw immediately from the tournament.
That's the breaks.
Obviously cost him the tournament. He probably would have easily won the tournament. A 6-stroke lead going into the final day. He would have had to have had an epic meltdown, which we would also have criticized him for if that had happened. But instead, this happened. Very unfortunate. I mean,
how the hell did he get it?
That's the thing. Is it one of the fans? Is it what? Because again, I mean, I don't know if you saw outside. When Phil Mickelson won a few weeks ago. Yeah. He won the PGA Championship. Folks. I don't know what is going down in the Carolinas, but if you watched the PGA Championship a couple weeks ago, Phil Mickelson, he was being swarmed by dozens of people. I'd never seen that before in my life in golf. Again, I don't watch a ton of it, but where literally the golfers could not advance because on the green because they were that just encompassed and security was overwhelmed. I actually would have been afraid for the fact that Mickelson finished that tournament. To me, is a small miracle because talking about mental health, I would have had a breakdown at that point. But this is unfortunate in COVID times, and I wonder if he was too close to the fans or what was going on.
Was he vaccinated or not? That might have been smart. If I'm a pro athlete, I'm probably getting vaccinated. Yeah. Number two is that he's outside. Statistically, the chances of him getting COVID outside are almost nothing.
Microscopic.
So I don't want to throw a negative thing on the guy, but it's he did something or he saw someone he shouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
And he got it. But that's the breaks, man. That's COVID. That's how it works. If I had a 6-stroke league, I probably would tell everybody to stay the hell away from me.
Yeah.
Real question is, does his caddy have it? Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, there you go. That too. Yeah, that is a good question. So that was an interesting story as well.
That does suck.
It's terrible. Absolutely awful. That is a terrible, terrible break. Speaking of, I guess not really a break, but this is a big deal. Quick NFL story, short NFL.
Massive deal. This is a massive deal.
This is a huge deal. Julio Jones traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the Tennessee Titans for only a pair of draft picks, a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. Now, Jones, of course, is on the wrong side of 30, but not by a lot. Still has a lot in the tank, especially receivers. Receivers can go until they're usually into their mid-late 30s. To me, this is a big deal for both organizations. Julio Jones has every statistical record in Falcons history as a receiver. He's also was $15 million against the cap. Suddenly, Atlanta now has a ton of cap space after this trade. They also have a 2nd-round pick next year, a 4th-round pick the year after that. They also had to send a 6th-round pick to Tennessee along with Jones. For Tennessee, after losing a couple guys in free agency, you have a legit number 1 receiver now for the next couple of years. You have the best running back in football. You have a solid defense. Your window is now. You are on the clock. You have a solid quarterback in Tannehill, who has become a solid quarterback. This is monumental. This makes the Titans, to me, the favorite to win at least the AFC South. If not, because again, I know Wentz is with the Colts now, but you don't know what you're going to get out of Indy. To me, Indy's a wild card, but I think the Titans are going to win the division again at the very least. But again, they're contenders, right? They were very close to the Super Bowl the past couple of years. They've made some good runs. That's a good team. Lee, what are your thoughts on this? To me, what is a blockbuster deal right before the training camps?
It is a blockbuster deal. This is my note on this. I think what I'm about to say says it all. I don't remember which receiver. One of the Titans receivers tweeted out one of the best tweets I've ever read, which was, "Y'all done screwed up now." Right? Meaning that the Tennessee wide receiver core, who he's going to replace one of them, is excited that he's there.
Yeah.
Right? There's just y'all done screwed up now. That tells you what you need. That's a team that wants to win. And they probably will have no problem winning a lot of football games this year.
Yeah, and they'll have it. And again, with 17 games on the schedule, who knows what'll happen? But
that's gonna be great. Them and then the Eagles shock the entire NFC East and are just amazing. It's going to be a great year of football.
Yeah, the Eagles will be 7-10 and win the division.
Yeah.
No, maybe. I think
all the teams are going to have an over 500 team in the NFC East.
Yes, I think the NFC East will be better overall this year. Yes, for sure.
They have to be because that was the worst thing ever.
Yes. Well, speaking of the worst thing ever,
great segue.
Thank you.
Oh, my God. What a joke this was.
Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. If you paid for this, you are everything that's wrong with the world right now.
No, if you paid for it, you're ruining boxing.
Yeah, boxing's dead. This exhibition, it looked like Logan Paul was just swinging wildly. Mayweather just stood there.
Mayweather came out today and said, quote, "It was like a sparring match."
Yeah.
He also came out and said, quote, "I'm an entertainer. This is entertainment."
Yeah.
Okay, they're telling you to your face that this is not real boxing.
Yeah.
And that they're in it for the money. Logan Paul wore a Charizard card out to the ring.
Yeah, $1 million Charizard card, supposedly.
Yeah, he says it's $1 million now. Right, which probably is, to be fair. Like, look.
I don't know if it's $1 million. It's a lot of money. That Charizard card is worth a lot of money.
No, I know it's worth like $300,000. I'm saying now that he wore it, it's probably worth $1 million.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
One of a kind. But here's the deal. Look, Logan Paul is an entertainer. He's not admirable. He did say last night after the fight, I couldn't fault him on this. He did say that, I don't want to hear anything's not possible. We said we were going to do this and we did it. And he says, I'm the biggest entertainer in the world. No, you're not. But that's okay. Here's the deal. This is hurting the sport of boxing. Floyd Mayweather made $100 million on this fight. It is a cash grab and a half. $100 million to fight a YouTuber that is showing signs of being a boxer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have a lot of respect for Logan Paul if him and his brother start fighting real fighters, which they're not going to do.
Yeah.
All right. This is a cash grab. Mayweather's retired. He's 50-0, 26 knockouts.
Yeah.
Made $100 million on this fight. $100 million. Wayne Gretzky made like $87 million over 20 years. This is a money game. I don't know what people were expecting. I mean, in terms of boxing, Mayweather kicked his ass. It was not close.
Oh yeah,
right?
no.
I mean, I will give Logan Paul credit for seemingly going the distance with him.
Yeah, he went 8 rounds.
But I am not convinced that was not rigged. All right, Mayweather held back the first 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
He's also old.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know what we're doing here. And the thing is, look, Gen Z loves Logan Paul and his brother. And look, good for him for knowing his audience. I can't fault Logan Paul as an entertainer and a guy who makes money. He knows what he's doing. He loves being the bad guy. His brother does too. Like, they really know what they're doing with that. I'm not hating on them for that. They're bad guys, all right? And they thrive in that.
It's the Razor Ramon role.
Yeah, just when are we going to get the meaningful message? Is this the legacy? And like I say, he started going that way. Like, nothing's impossible. I wanted this and I got it. Where are we going with that, Logan? Where are we going to go with that? Because here's the deal. Like, we're talking about you. We got to bring it up. So we are talking about you. Floyd Mayweather is a major man in boxing. He's another bad guy. Somehow was the good guy last night.
Yeah. It would have been better if he knocked Logan Paul
Where are we
out.
going with this? Are you going to be a boxer? Are you going to be an inspiration? Are you just in it for the money? And if you, I'm not going to say come clean if you are. It's just, what kind of role models are we looking at here? What is going on here in sport? Like, what are we looking at? What is this? That's where I'm at. Like, what is this? What is the value of this? I wish somebody would tell me that. If the value is just that someone like Logan Paul can come from nothing and, get what he wants and that his dream is real, okay, that's not a horrible message. All right. Where are we going with all this crap? That's my question. And nobody knows, right? Except for them. And the thing is that, again, this boxing match just was trash. It was not good boxing, period. But that wasn't the point, right? Floyd Mayweather made $100 million. I don't even want to know what Logan Paul made. All right, Chad Ochocinco.
Yeah, was the opener. That was the
a 4-round fight. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing? I don't get it. I mean, I'll keep my eyes open, but I just it's very little value in this entertainer right now to me. I really wish someone could explain that to me. I'm not just saying that to be funny. I don't get it. Like, this is what we're becoming, right?
That's the thing that's what we're becoming as a society. That's where we're at.
I just don't get it. And here's the thing: if you had influence like that, like, you have influence. You have massive amounts of influence. Like, where are we going to go with that? What are you going to do with that?
They don't care.
It's not that they don't care. But here's the thing: Dwayne Johnson cares.
Yeah,
clearly. Dwayne Johnson trying to become a billionaire. He clearly cares about people.
Well, I mean, I think that this is again. I mean, this is the diff. Look, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know much about the Paul brothers. I don't pay attention to them. I ignore them as much as possible.
You have to.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing. I mean, and Lee know I was originally against putting them in any of our chats, but now they come.
Look, we got to talk about it, but like I don't hear people like analyzing the boxing match last night. I'm like, God, there's a bigger problem here.
Yeah, it's not boxing. The thing is that I think though the difference between somebody like The Rock and somebody like the Paul brothers is it feels like. You know, The Rock he's had to deal with real strife in his life. He's had to actually work for what he's got. The Paul brothers are a couple of bumbling idiots who stumbled onto a YouTube formula, and the algorithm helped them out, and they became celebrities overnight, and they didn't know what to do with it. They had nobody keeping them in check. They had nobody, and they've never struggled. They've never been homeless like The Rock. They've never been, like, again, it's, you know, adversity builds character, and these guys don't have character.
I don't want to say they haven't faced adversity, Ray. I always question people that have this much influence and don't do good with it. And it goes back and forth. It's not a new concept. It's just it's just weird to me. Where are we going with it? What value are you providing? And maybe they won't provide it. It's not the first time that's happened. But look, you don't get to the top. Like I shouldn't say the top. You don't get where these guys got without facing some adversity. But it's like, you know, what message, you're influencing so many people, and I just don't understand people that influence in that way. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, well, that's a good note to end it on as we move into our mashup now. And we mentioned The Rock. Speaking of wrestling, talk about a lot of wrestling this episode. We go into our mashup. Two geek characters. Speaking of kind of these fights with Paul and Mayweather, it's kind of like a weird freaking mashup, all of these fights. What two geek characters would have a great WWE/AEW kind of storyline going into like a major pay-per-view like WrestleMania or Double or Nothing or whatever? Lee, I've got one, but I'm going to let you go first.
Well, there's a lot of different ways to go with this, right? You could go in the same universe like Batman, Superman, but I'm like, that wouldn't be good because Superman would kill him.
Right.
Literally. I would like to see Iron Man, Batman. I think that would be a phenomenal matchup, right? Of just kind of who's the better billionaire.
Right.
Right? I mean, you could see all the people coming to support him. They could get factions. They could bring the Avengers. You could bring the Justice League, the tag team it, crowning a champion at WrestleMania, Batman versus Iron Man. And I can't, here's the thing, Ray. I can't really tell you who would win in that because they always have something up their sleeves. You know, the classic me is like, oh, Batman will have a way to do it. But the Iron Man's not far off from that either, right? I mean, that's the classic ones. I mean, like, if you want to go video games, like, I'd love to see, like, a Mega Man versus Link.
Yeah.
That would just be hilarious to watch. I mean, who knows
you do the classics. You do Super Mario versus Sonic, right? You do Nintendo versus Sega.
That would be fun. It's almost too kiddie, though. Like, that's why I said, like, look, man, I like dark characters. Mm-hmm. Batman, Iron Man would be really fun, and I'd have a hard time picking one of those two. That's what I look at. Those are the best things. Like when Austin would go against The Rock, it's like, I always love The Rock, but I love Austin too. Like, you kind of win either way with those types of things.
Right.
I think Batman and Iron Man, you'd win either way.
Well, I mean, and that's why I think if you went with the video game world, you want to go more adult, you go Master Chief versus Kratos, right?
Right.
You have the Sony Xbox rivalry, right? So there you have probably the biggest, you have the biggest Sony mascot probably in Kratos versus probably the biggest for Microsoft. Or
you Bandicoot Kratos if you want the biggest PlayStation icon of all time. Akuna Maga, ba-dum-bum.
Yeah, well, or you do something. You do genres. You do Nathan Drake versus Lara Croft. If you could do an intergender match, right, where you have two, which of course all just ripped off of Indiana Jones. So you could do a lot with video games.
I would like to see Chris Evans, the Human Torch, versus Chris Evans, Captain America. versus Chris Evans X number 6 in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
There you go. Triple threat match. There you go. I like it.
Chris Evans was going to win that one.
There you go. So there we go. We got some good mashups there for you. You guys want to know what you think?
Yes.
We
want to know what you think.
Comment below as always. Let us know because we always do want to hear from you guys. We always appreciate it. And yeah, we're back. We're going to be back on a regular schedule now going forward. Saturdays will be live over on Twitch again, starting on Saturday.
This Saturday. It's going to be Sunday this week, but the following week will absolutely be on Saturday.
Oh, yes, and my camera just cut out, so that's a perfect way to...
It's a perfect time.
Perfect time to end the show. So, for Lee, from the void, I'm Ray Carcillo as I try to fix this camera. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. So...
From the void.
From the void. This has been Geeks Who Like Sports episode number 110. We'll see you all next week, everybody. Good night!